So this is talking about the grand jury, not the jury. This is talking about the grand jury. This is they aren't even in court session yet. See what I mean? So it looks like, again, it's almost twice now. I mean, with the inquest, it looked like he had a trial, and then when he gets to the grand jury, it looks like he has a trial. So this headline, actually, remember when F. Lee Bailey was brought into the Simpson case?
Yes.
This was because that's when they dismissed the grand jury for making the indictment because of what happened in the Sheppard case, and he knew that. That was part of the strategies. 75 picked for jury. See how it worked? It's astounding. 37 men and women, so their names and addresses were printed in the newspaper. Poll of public. Call 20 to testify. Sheppard to testify, no defense. This is October. No. Loses delay fight. Held up on change of venue.
Which didn't happen.
Woman juror seated. So finally, October 13th, 14th, they're going into the real jury. Fourth juror is seated. Prospective juror. Five women, 4 men now on jury. There's Betty and Dorothy, the daughters or wives-in-law. Oust juror for discussing case. Yeah, I mean, this is just, but who will speak for Marilyn? This, again, frontline page editorial during a trial. And who will speak for her? So they took over my mother's personality. There's the wedding picture.
What we are looking at is the springboard evidence that changed the way our present system covers, prosecutes, and defends criminal cases. We as a society have reaped the benefits of this shameful chapter in the history of our system. Change of venue in inflammatory cases is now a given. Evidence preservation and the securing of a crime scene is now second nature to any investigation. The anonymity of the jury selection process is carefully guarded. Pre-trial publicity is meticulously weighed by newspaper editors, television and radio producers, and presiding judges. The written word can be entertaining. The written word should tell us the truth. Sometimes, however, the written word, like Hal the computer, takes on a mind of its own. When we return, is there an ending, a conclusion, a sense of closure, or are those just words Hollywood uses to sell popcorn? After 10 grueling years in the Ohio State Penitentiary and after countless denied appeals, Dr. Sam was released from prison. But prison isn't the place for a doctor to improve his abilities. At least it wasn't that way for Dr. Sheppard. It might have been advantageous for him to refresh his surgical knowledge before attempting to re-enter the medical profession.
He should not have been given a license back without some retraining after 10 years, particularly surgery. He severed the iliac artery of his patient who died right on the spot. And he lost his hospital privileges, without which a doctor is just a GP. He didn't have any practice and wound up wrestling, which he was really very good at. He was the champ of the Ohio prison system. He had to survive in that prison. And when he got out, he tried to make up for all the good times he hadn't had, and was indeed a problem with some pills and some booze, but not an insurmountable problem. Had I needed him on a witness stand, I think I could have bullied him into being a witness, and a good one. Well, I draw a lot of parallels with the O.J. Simpson case, because there the press did a number on O.J. Simpson, but the jury didn't know it. See, the Sheppard jury wasn't locked up. They were reading the paper every day, including big editorials on the front page with banner heads saying you should convict. We know there isn't much evidence, but smart guys hide the evidence, and you can't let them get away with it. That means You can convict smart people even though there's no case against them. And that's exactly what they said.
Someone killed Marilyn Sheppard in her bed on the night of July 4th, 1954, in the family home in Bay Village, a small upscale suburb of Cleveland, Ohio. This we know. What has remained a mystery to this day is who actually committed the murder. Was it Dr. Sam? He did the time. Or was it the mayor's wife? Or was it a military person who had an extensive record of violence, identified by 5 eyewitness accounts as being in close proximity to the Sheppard home early in the morning of the murder?
Because there are several eyewitnesses who say he was there, or there's somebody who say they picked him up as a hitchhiker later that morning and he was covered in blood. So, what can I can't completely write it off.
Yeah. Or was it Richard Eberling, the family handyman, who had access to the home, whose blood was found inside the home? You met Richard Eberling.
Right.
You actually communicated with him.
Right.
Richard Eberling was a worker for your family.
He was a handyman of window washing, had a window washing business. Most of his story is in the book, but essentially I and the author of my book, A Mockery of Justice, researched this man. We corresponded with him, had I think 200 to 300 letters, because nobody else was doing it. And I visited him in prison, and he was a psychopath. I think he was a multiple personality. And I visited him in order to satisfy my curiosity or in question if he could have been the one who did it. And I met him and felt very seriously that he was a primary suspect in the case. We had all that evidence evaluated by a forensic psychiatrist, a very amazing doctor who was thrown out of the Bundy case because neither side, the defense nor the state, liked him, which I think is a good sign. And he says the guy did it. And he looked through all the correspondence, and he and a producer from the NOVA program were going to go in and do an interview with Richard Eberling, but Eberling died the day before they were able to get in there.
We may never know beyond a shadow of a doubt. According to Sam Reese Sheppard, Dr. Sam died believing it was Mayor Houck.
What Dr. Kirk found was a reconstruction of the killing, and he concluded that from all of the evidence, she got hit 35 times with something. He thought it might be a flashlight, but he had no murder weapon, by a left-handed person of not very great strength, because no blow was fatal. Marilyn Sheppard drowned in her own blood. And it's unquestionable that she was in a compromising position when she was attacked. Her pajama top was unbuttoned but not torn, and her pajama bottoms were off one leg but not torn. So nobody was forcing her to do anything until she got beaten to death.
As the years turn into decades and the key figures in the Sheppard case are either dead, dying, or in hiding, the mystery, the fascination, have become the very fuel of legend.
I think the case is an icon and a warning. Many lawyers have said if your investigator is good enough, most any lawyer will do. The Sheppard case, the investigation was all but corrupt.
We talked about how to try not to live as bitter people in terms of having this bitterness infect our whole lives. But what can you do? I mean, it's when you've been worked over so badly and it's been unfair, and just at every turn you meet a wall.
America does indeed have the attention span of a 4-year-old. You can teach it a lesson, but it won't be remembered for very long.
It's been 50 years. 50 years. Have we learned to respect the power of the media? Have we learned to control its specter? Has the printed word become a relic of the past? Or is it simply resting like a dormant volcano, awaiting to erupt and wreak its havoc? 50 years ago, a family experienced a nightmare they were unable to awaken from, and the newspapers stood their silent trial. Guilt, Innocence? I have my opinion, and you have yours. It's said that those of us who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. Thank you, and good night.